Wednesday, November 13th, and it's not just Damon Bruce. Plus, it is Golden Days as well with our good friend Cyrus. And I think, dare I even say, Cyrus and I have been strategizing on how we're going to bring this show to you. And I think Warriors Wednesdays is about to be something that you can start counting on at 11 a.m. If Cyrus can get out of bed. If his power stays on, I think we're going to be talking some Warriors. And, you know, I didn't know if it was going to be the type of season where we needed to dedicate a weekly show to this team. But Cyrus, apparently, that's what we got. We got a team that matters back here in the Bay Area. And after a couple seasons of feeling a little lost in the woods, this is good. This is good. And last night was a hell of a game. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, brother, and I hope you're doing well as well. Sorry to be redundant there. Yeah, it was a hell of a game. The Warriors are a hell of a team. Goes to show that the preseason does matter to a certain extent, because the preseason did reveal that there's something special here. The good vibes were starting to show as far back as Hawaii, which, a side note, was a very subtle yet brilliant move on the Kerr administration part. And dude, this team is gelling. The depth is reminiscent of the old days. I am officially on board with calling them a contender. I'm not predicting a title, like, per se. Like, there's still a lot of tests that we need to see this team pass, but they're so far so damn good. I consider them in the elite of the NBA. I don't know about you, where you see them currently, but they're elite, dude. They are for real, and they're in the discussion for a 5th championship for Kerr, Dre, and Mr. Stephen Curry.
I don't know if I'm going to go there quite yet.
I know, I hear you.
After a couple of seasons where they kind of played a style of basketball that we all knew didn't even really deserve to be on the court with some of the NBA's true contenders and their better teams, I think they're approaching contender status again. They really are. They can stay on the court with teams that have established themselves as contenders. And on a night where they shoot well, they're back to being able to beat anybody. And they're doing that through less sloppy play and a little bit more defense, which is something that you and I have been talking about for well over a year. Just a little bit more cleaning up the mess, and a little bit more defensive effort and presence is going to go a really long way for a team that either doesn't outscore the league quite like it used to, or the entire league is now playing the style of basketball that you were accustomed to. So now everybody scores 118 points a night. Are you going to play any defense? And the Warriors have said, yeah, we're going to play some defense this year. So there's a lot to like. There, we can look at the in-season in its entirety. But Cyrus, something very special happened at Chase Center, the return of Klay Thompson.
Oh, he was in town?
Yeah, that happened.
Okay.
And, you know, when it's easy to joke about the NBA Cup. And I don't think that last night felt like a playoff game because it was an NBA Cup game. It had to do with Klay Thompson being back in the room. But both things stacked on top of each other really did turn that game into the first, like, okay, this feels like the first really big game of the year. And you normally don't get big games before you've had Thanksgiving dinner in the NBA. So hell of a night by the Warriors. And I tell you what, a tip of the cap to Raymond Ritter and his entire crew, the game night crew, the captain's hats. I thought Klay Thompson was coming here to sourpuss the entire night. And when he got greeted like that, he couldn't hide the smile, man. And I'm glad that Klay let himself enjoy the moment instead of fighting his nature to enjoy the moment in the name of I'm a competitor and I'm going to, like, enjoy yourself a little. And it looked like he did.
Absolutely. And I don't think, like you said, I think you nailed it perfectly. It was a situation where Klay was trying to be all business, and it was so transparent, man. You could see right through it. It was it was so obvious that he was trying his best to not get into his feelings. Dude's got feelings. It was a huge appeal of his time here, was his authenticity, him being a real individual. What you see is what you get. And the moment, especially, like, I'm so glad you gave props to Raymond Ritter, because he's I believe Senior VP of Communication is his official title, but he's the head of communication. He's the head of PR. He runs everything behind the scenes.
Ray runs the whole fucking team. He's basically the general manager and coach as well. Raymond Ritter does it all.
He's the best at what he does, not just in sports, but across all of mass media. And he's fantastic. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there was for people who missed it, when Klay first arrived at the arena about 3 hours before tip-off, like all the employees were there with those caps, and it was like a party. And the whole point of bringing that up is like what you said, man. Klay was trying to be all business. It's you can't. If you have a soul, he's a human being, and to have like 400 or 500 people all just welcoming you like that, as warmly, as happily as they were, you have to embrace that and get into it. Yeah, there was so much a sentimentality last night. There was so much in terms of just feelings and going back to the old days, nostalgia. It was fantastic, brother. I thought the Warriors handled it perfect.
Yeah, it was a banner night for the organization. They nailed so many aspects. The welcome video, the crowd was awesome to give Klay the love he certainly deserves. And then all of a sudden, a basketball game breaks out. And boy, did the Warriors give their fans an awful lot to cheer for. Klay Thompson, you could tell he was fired up for that game. He was hitting shots and scored, he's averaging about 14 a night with the Mavericks. He was north of 20 last night. But boy, the difference between really, really, really good shooter and greatest shooter of all time was on full display. And watching those two guys go at each other, guarding each other, Klay trying to, put Curry in the blender with his size advantage, and then Curry with his handle and his speed advantage was making it tough on Klay, because Curry knows Klay doesn't move laterally like he used to. So the two of them going at each other was just a fascinating study. I mean, it's happened a billion times in practice, but we don't get to watch practice. We got to watch that last night, and the game within the game was fantastic. And if you don't mind me saying, just in terms of like game night skullduggery,
I do mind. So stop. I'm kidding.
How about the fact that, Klay came in here looking to do business, and they buttered him up. They softened him up. Like, you could say that was a really nice thing to do for the Warriors. It was a really nice thing to do for the Warriors. And I do think it helped them a little bit, you're coming here, Mr. Big Badass. Well, we're going to rub your belly and pat your head and make you a little comfortable before we even get going. I liked it. I liked it all. The Warriors, I think, gave him the love and the treatment that you need to give your opponent as well last night.
Yeah, they softened the beast a little bit. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And going head to head, it was awesome seeing those two go at it, because, like you said, it's not something we've ever seen. They've done it clearly, and the competitive fires were going. And just, I mean, look, Klay was 6 of 12 from three. It was a big question mark whether or not the Klay that we're normally seeing now shows up, which is the one that's averaging approximately 15 points a game this year, down from 18 plus last year, or if Klay was actually going to live up to the hype and produce some theater. And boy, did he. And again, 22 points, 6 of 12 from deep. But then you have Stephen Curry, who was 5 of 12 from deep, but finished with 37 points, including that dagger at the end, which I think so far is the shot of the year. It went borderline perfectly. It was fantastic.
So I'll just say this, Cyrus. We've watched this man win NBA championships. We've watched this man win a gold medal. I have never seen Curry react as emotionally to a made basket as the one that sent Captain Klay to the bottom of the sea last night. And you could just tell, amateur lip readers are all over the video. As a matter of fact, let me do the very best I can here. I saw the KNBR last night. I want to share this page with everyone. Let me make sure I'm actually sharing it. Boom. Here we go. Here is what Steph Curry had to say about what he said to the camera. So demonstratively last night, I think Rick Bucher is asking the question. I think I recognize Rick's voice here.
There are a lot of amateur lip readers online trying to dissect what you were saying into the camera at the end after the night. What were you saying?
I really have no idea. Gotta go look at it myself. That type of moment with all the angst, it was raw emotion. I really don't know what I said. I'll let you know, though. I don't shy away from what I said on the court. I have to go look at it again.
There are
I know what he said at the end there, Cyrus. He said, "Ah."
Yeah, that part's obvious. Yes,
That part was
we
pretty
don't
obvious. Here's the thing. I don't have the exact transcript, but what he basically said is, this is my fucking house, and if you are dumb enough to attach your career with me and then detach it from me, you're going to the loss column. I have a feeling that was a little bit for Klay Thompson. That was a little bit for Kevin Durant. There was a little bit for others who have come and gone. I am the sun, the moon, and the stars is basically what Steph Curry was saying last night.
Whatever he was saying, whether it was a comment that was subtly, maybe indirectly at Klay, because again, some lip readers think that he was talking about, he made some reference to how dare you leave my house kind of thing, like nobody leaves my house. And again, Steph handled that as well as he could in the post game by saying, "I'll let you know if I remember." Right. Well, the check's in the mail. I'm sure that's coming. But in reality, look, the emotions were on display, like you said. This might have meant more to Steph than the Olympics, like you said. And you might be right. I don't think you're saying that facetiously. I think that is a solid point. It meant a lot to Steph. And I do think a part of them, we all have egos, must have been feeling something about Klay saying, "I need to go somewhere else." It's like, what? Like you're going to break this up because of your own personal interest? Like,
you know what I
think?
Crazy. You know what I really think, based on just some of the comments we've heard from Steph about the start to this year and how there's no drama attached. I really think at the end, Steph Curry was ready for his splash brother to go somewhere else. Remember, Klay Thompson went from there are low maintenance players and there are no maintenance players, and Klay was a no maintenance player. The famous quote from Steve Kerr. He became a maintenance player.
Big time. Yeah.
He became a vibe suck, an energy drain. He became an inefficient shooter. And I do think that there were an awful lot of elements to last year where Klay was doing more harm than good. And I think that Curry knows enough about basketball and the Golden State Warriors to have recognized that too. I also think that Steph is very happy with the two-headed monster that is now DeAnthony Melton and Buddy Hield. And that's kind of where I want to go here, Cyrus. Again, last night was awesome. Incredible game. It feels like this rotation, which again do you have a rotation when your rotation is, we play everybody? I mean, I don't even know if there's a rotation. But it sounds like Steve Kerr has said he wants Melton in this starting five because it allows, a defensive presence along with the offensive presence and somebody who can just kind of wear beige and blend the two-way player. And then Buddy Hield comes off the bench to bomb it away. And I know Buddy didn't have a great game last night, but this is a guy who was born to be a Golden State Warrior, and they're doing a great job hiding him defensively. And obviously Melton stands out defensively. So you kind of need to hide Steph a little defensively too. I understand why Kerr wants Melton and Curry as a starting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To me, it's a far superior option than what they had with Jordan Poole in 21-22 for the simple reason that Melton is playing defense, right? We didn't get that with Jordan Poole, even though Poole did have a fantastic year 3 years back. You're 100% right. He's found his starting shooting guard. Kerr has not been shy about communicating how happy he is with this current starting five. And just adding to that, the theme that the Warriors didn't have Kyle Anderson last night, excuse me, who's been pivotal for this start, because not just because of the obvious things like the fact that he plays defense, he has a high basketball IQ, even though he's slow-mo, he gets things done, but he handles the point. And that is clearly like an emphasis of Kerr's that when it comes to priorities is about as high as he gets for Kerr. He loves his ball handlers. He loves people that he can be comfortable with running the offense out there. I think it's a huge reason why we're seeing these Brandon Podziemski minutes, even when he's struggling like he has been. And so anyway, so Kyle Anderson, even though he wasn't there, and I think that made a small difference given he's been such a important piece as that ball handler, in addition to being Draymond Green's primary backup at the four. Like Kerr seems to like having a Looney and Kyle Anderson as his front court coming off the bench. But the depth of this team is absurd. I mean, I've been saying this since the preseason. This is the deepest team in the NBA, and the depth is resulting in this dominance. Again, we've seen it before. That's why, like, I feel great about this team. It's why I'm saying at this point in time, this is officially a contender for a few reasons. One is the depth, which is awesome, right? And Melton being a starting 2 is a huge part of that because your bench is that much better. I mean, Buddy Hield is a bench piece. Kuminga is a bench piece. Moody is a bench piece. Podziemski, bench. I mean, I could go on and on with this, right? I mean, Kyle Anderson, Lindy Waters is not even getting minutes, and he should be getting minutes. That's how, even last night, that's how deep this team is. But so the depth of it is showing me that this is reminiscent of teams that have done this before. But Damon, the other part of this, which not enough people I think are focusing on, and it was a huge reason why I was one of the only individuals back in summer and August of 2021 predicting that the Warriors were going to win the whole thing. I'm not as confident here yet. I'm not going that far yet, but it's the landscape, Damon. And this is where I'd love to get your insights on this. In 2021, 2022, that was a year where you look at the rest of the NBA and there was no dominance of bigs, meaning like the center position was not the predominant force in the NBA. And when that happens, it opens a huge door for this Warriors team that traditionally does not like to play centers a lot of minutes. And we saw that again last night with Trayce Jackson-Davis, who I thought should have played almost double the minutes he got. He was a force, dude. Like, when you look at the Warriors were trailing at the half, I think it was a very close game. But the third quarter, they pulled away largely because of Trayce Jackson-Davis owning that paint and making some huge buckets. So we could talk about that in a little bit. But bigger picture, Damon, and this is where I'm curious to know what you think, is the rest of the NBA landscape. Some years it's about the big. Some years you have Jokic and Embiid running the whole show. Giannis is the centerpiece of a Bucks team that's deep. But then there are years like this year where Giannis' squad sucks ass, where Jokic's squad sucks borderline ass. They're winning because he is that amazing, but the depth of that team is very reminiscent of 2021, 2022. Embiid's team is a pretender. They're in the East. They might show up somewhere, but the Warriors don't have to deal with that. So the point is, I mean, you look at the landscape.
Season's underway, like Embiid and Paul George are not playing back-to-back.
It's incredible. They're done. Like the Sixers, although in the East, this is how pathetic the East is. The Sixers, as bad as they are, I think are just a game and a half out of the play-in right now. So that's why there's no panic buttons being pressed there, is because the East is that bad. But my point is, you look at the West. I still want to see the Warriors beat the Lakers. I still want to see the Warriors beat the Timberwolves. I still want to see how the Warriors look against the Nuggets, because the Nuggets have had their number for 2+ years now. But when I see the landscape and when I see this Warriors team, what they're doing to elite teams, they just finished 3-1 in a 4-game stretch that many thought was the hardest in recent NBA history. I don't know how you cannot look at this team and think to yourself, they can make some noise this year. Your thoughts, sir?
The only thing that I'm worried about is the Warriors are doing something that goes against the natural order of how basketball teams actually function. Every single person seems to be totally bought in right now. The person that I'm worried the most to kind of start sourpussing the year away is Jonathan Kuminga, and he hasn't yet. Good on him. Sign of maturity. Happy to see that. But how long can Steve Kerr continue to pull a lever that only gets pulled in the YMCA, where everybody gets to play? You know, this is not how professional basketball teams function or operate. And, you know, do they legitimately have a zig while the rest of the NBA is zagging? And this is their difference. This is the untapped potential that they're into. You know, it feels like they discovered the 3-point shot before the rest of the league. Have they discovered the concept of, let's call it, absurd death? And, you know, all of a sudden the NBA is going to try to be copycatting this, because we know the all professional sports are kind of copycat leagues. If we see other teams trying to go out and do this, we'll know that maybe the Warriors are onto something. Or maybe it's just something that they can pull off because Steve Kerr really is like a master communicator, and Mike Dunleavy has given him so many different tools in his tool belt. He can't quite figure out which one to use yet or how to use it all. So he's just throwing a lot of ideas to see what sticks. And eventually the year is going to play out in a more natural pecking order. I don't think that the Warriors we're watching here in November are going to be the same team that we're watching in March.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe. Where I'll push back on that is, you look at 2014-15, you look at 21-22 Warriors, right? These two teams that also had tremendous depth. They did not have issues in the postseason where you really see rotations narrowed down. We're usually down to 7-8 players. Even in those years, think back to the last championship in that Celtics series. GP2 was like the 12th guy off the bench for that team, and he was getting real minutes in the postseason. You can make it work. And when the Warriors have not had Kevin Durant, which represented a very top-heavy team that was going traditional in the sense that you're talking about with these smaller rotations, when they're not that top-heavy. And you forgot to mention Joe Lacob, who I think should be getting more and more credit as one of the best owners in all of sports, man. I mean, this dynasty is still going.
Oh, wait, a couple months ago, you were not on Team Joe Lacob, and you said
No, that was not me. I don't know who you're mistaking me with someone else. I've always been a Joe Lacob fan for the simple reason that he's far from perfect. Yes, he can be arrogant. Yes, the light years thing was a bit audacious, but he's committed to constantly winning. He does not sit on his laurels. He's got Eddie D vibes, man. His former players are welcome back, and they're in the building. Some of them are working for the team. I'm falling in love with this guy, man. I'm starting to tell a Dub Nation, be grateful that you have an owner. And Peter Gruber deserves some credit as well, even though he's the silent partner. He did make Batman with the Michael Keaton Batman. That was him, man. People forget that. His name's on the credits. He wasn't just putting money into that. He was behind Batman, the Michael Keaton version. That's Peter Gruber. The point is,
he's Tango in Cash. We don't have Tango in Cash without Peter Gruber. And that's one of the greatest contributions to cinema.
It's incredible. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yes. The part of America that is of its absolute cultural fabric is all those awesome 80s movies. But yeah, dude, Joel, the point is that this Warriors dynasty is still going strong. And I'm feeling damn good about them. I'm seeing the rest of the landscape. Again, I need to see them. The Lakers have been the thorn in their side for a long time, for 5+ years now, because even in 2022, the Warriors got to avoid the Lakers in that postseason run because I think AD got injured and then the Suns took care of business. I think that was the year. Anyways, the point is, this team's for real, man. I don't know if you agree or not. It sounds like you still want to wait and see, but dude, if they can beat Minnesota, Denver, LA, start getting your hopes up. This team might be real.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a whole lot more good than bad so far to a team that started 9-2, just went through a blazingly tough road trip with a 4-1 record. I mean, pretty impressive stuff all the way around. It really has been. Hold on, sorry. By the way, we're about 22 minutes in, and we have yet to acknowledge the fact what's going on here. We're going to be bringing you Warriors Wednesdays now. Cyrus and I co-streaming on both channels here on Damon Bruce Plus and on Golden Days as well. We see I Have No Enemies, Bloomer Wave Vibes. Say, Cyrus, good to see you close to 3,000 subs. Fantastic. Yeah. Go ahead, hit like and subscribe no matter where you're watching. We got someone watching your channel from Poland. Gregor Zkolowski says, I just got news from my daughter that Golden Days is live. Cheers from Poland. Hell yeah, Poland in the house. Always good to see. We got Japan in the house. I think we got Poland in the house. We got Ireland in the house.
Probably New Zealand. I get a crazy international audience, man. That's Warriors basketball for you.
The NBA
it's a global intrigue, dude. It really is, man.
More international flair than ever before. And oh, by the way, the only problem with watching in Ireland or Poland or Japan means you're not in the Bay or in California where you can get yourself an Ike's sandwich. Go ahead and get yourself to Ike's. Sign up for that new Love Rewards program, and you start earning your way towards, free chips, free drinks, and you can be registered for a trip for two to New Orleans to a very, very large football game that'll be played there in the month of February. So check out Ike's and go get yourself a Guinness at the Dubliner West Portal. We've got some sponsors that we had. Look at thank you, Vanna. Thank you, Vanna White, for pointing out our consonants and vowels. Look at that. Just like, you're like a human parentheses right now. It's fantastic. And then we also want to tell you, I know Cyrus is going to tell you to go gamble somewhere. I'm going to tell you to gamble over at US and use promo code YouTube150 for 150% sign up bonus. I told you take the Warriors last night, and they covered by their chinny chin chin. They really did. Check out YouTube or use promo code YouTube150 when you check out BetUS, and obviously gamble responsibly. Now, Cyrus, tell us about your sponsors.
I only have one. I'm getting there. Slow. It's a process. But and speaking of the bet last night, it was Warriors. My sponsor, Bet Online, who I'm going to give some love to here in just a second. They had the Warriors at -3. If you're telling me that you recommended your audience to bet on the Warriors and they won, did you get it at -2.5?
2.5.
Oh, you lucky SOB. Congratulations. Yeah, my audience pushed because if they had -3, I guess it depends on who you're betting with. But regardless, I hope you won last night. And if you did, I hope, and you won through my sponsor, congratulations, which is Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA, and so much more. Head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here.
There you go. There you go. Got to take care of the sponsors. They take care of us. Thanks to watching, everyone watching across both channels. We appreciate it very, very much. Like and subscribe if you would, please. Hit notify and be there whenever we go live here on what will be known as Warriors Wednesdays.
Yeah, hell yeah. Love it.
So my only real complaint of what I've been seeing in the last couple of games, again, it's hard to complain about things when you're winning. And Steve Kerr has seen the Warriors move into the win column by quick triggering Trayce Jackson-Davis the last couple of games, but I still don't like the quick trigger, and I think that it is working against the Warriors in the long run more than it's helping them win, because I don't think that there's anyone who learns more on the job faster than Trayce Jackson-Davis. This guy, I watched him 4 years at Indiana, get better by the game. And I think most Warriors fans would admit they've watched this guy improve almost by the game, if not by the week, by the month. There is a ticking upwards of this man's comfort level, his skill level, his just adaptive level to NBA speed and rim protection and weak side helping with Draymond. By the way, Draymond's been on fire too. Maybe the most underreported aspect of this year so far has been how locked in and focused Draymond Green has really been. I don't want to see quick triggers for Trayce. He needs to be at 25 minutes a night going forward. He really does. It'll pay off in the game you lose today will win you 2 more games tomorrow because Trayce Jackson-Davis learns quickly on the job.
Yeah, and that stuck out to me a lot last night because, again, the third quarter, and I forgot to talk about Kuminga. We'll do that in a second. But Trayce Jackson-Davis, to me, is holding his own. He as a solid NBA center who is, we have no idea what his ceiling is. That's been a huge discussion with Kuminga and Moody. What are their ceilings? What can they be? We don't, and same with Podziemski to a certain extent, but we rarely hear that talking point applied to Trayce Jackson-Davis, and it should, because he looks like night and day a player in terms of improvement from a year ago, where he now has a spin move, he now has a hook shot, he's backing people up in the post, he's looking for people in the post to pass the ball to set them up. He's getting lobs routinely for monster slams. I think that, and last night was a big test in terms of an opposition with bigs, in terms of, no pun intended, in terms of a Daniel Gafford. PJ Washington was out, but that meant even more minutes for Derek Lively. And I thought we could have used more Trayce Jackson-Davis minutes. This team trailed 112-105 with 3 minutes and change to play. They were very much in danger of losing this game. Stephen Curry scored the final 12 points. He deserves all the credit in the world for his 37-point performance last night. The reason why I bring that up is because I don't think it should have been that close. I think if Trayce Jackson-Davis, instead of playing 14 minutes and change, played 20 minutes and change, 25 minutes and change, this would not have been as close as it would have been, because a huge reason that Dallas kept this as close as they did is because of that inside presence. Gafford was getting his own. Lively was getting his own. They were driving to the bucket. Luka Doncic was scoring at will because he did not oftentimes have a rim protector to deal with when he got inside. And those are the things that Trayce Jackson-Davis provides. I'm with you, man. I wish he got more minutes, and I hope that's something we see progress as the season goes along. It bums me out when I see that quick leash. for Trace Jackson Davis. And I wish he got more minutes, man. I'm with you.
Look, the Warriors would have, I think, had a much more comfortable game last night had they handled their business from the free throw line. And free throwing has been, a little bit of an issue so far this year. They were 16 of 27 for just 60%. There are too many good shooters on this team for them to be shooting 60% from the line in any game.
Agreed.
Also, 14 of 41, 34% from downtown last night. So it wasn't an efficient night. Again, the Warriors didn't even have a particularly good night on the court on a night where everything that was happening felt like it was happening under the umbrella of all the emotion that comes with Klay's return and the NBA Cup, whatever the fuck that is. Here's the thing. Like, if it's making guys play harder and lock in a little bit more, I'm not going to argue with it. I don't like the courts. I like a simple basketball court myself. But okay, I know it's not for me. Other people really like these courts. Fine, great, lean in. Give me games that feel like they got consequence attached to them in November. Like, I dare you, NBA. And at least last night felt that way. Again, it wasn't because of the cup or the court or the unis or anything like that. It was because it was Klay.
I mean, the cup thing is clearly aimed at the casual fan. It like you and I, it's this. Obviously, we see the gimmick here.
I was watching anyways. I was going to watch anyways. I
get it. And now look, $500,000, whether you are the average layman or you're an NBA player, is a lot of money. And last year, I think, was evident that these guys did care. The Lakers and the Pacers, you saw how much they declined after the tournament because they expended a lot of energy in November, which is not something we're accustomed to seeing. So it's for the casual fan, and I get it. It's a gimmick. It's cheesy. It's corny. But it also seems to be working to a certain extent in terms of generating interest in November. But I'm totally with you. Now, with that said, the players do seem to care. I mean, they do rise up. There is an increase in intensity with these cup games, and you're seeing like crazy upsets, like the Hawks beating the Celtics in Boston last night. Like, that should not have happened, and maybe it did happen because of the cup. Because Trae Young, and maybe not Trae Young, but he's got teammates, 13 of them, most of whom are not making anywhere near the money he's making. So they're looking at an extra $500,000 and thinking, I'm going to play harder for that, right? Like, the 12th man on the bench on the Hawks probably is looking at $500,000 and thinking, I really could use that.
Right.
So,
if you're sitting there on a two-way deal,
yes,
that $500,000 is your whole year.
It's huge. Yeah. So it depends on who you ask, but I'm totally with you, man. It is corny and cheesy. In the courts, it doesn't do anything for me, but I could see the casual fan being into it.
Whatever. I mean, here's the thing. Activate the team, get these guys to play harder, and look, to me, more than anything else, the missing ingredient from regular season basketball is defense. That's why the games become boring. When you have legitimate defensive efforts, it just raises the quality of everybody's game on the court. And to me, it's just, give me as much defense in a basketball game as you can throw at me, please.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Jonathan Kuminga here, Cyrus.
Please. Yes.
So if I were Jonathan Kuminga's agent, I would tell him, you might have gotten that max deal if you just rebounded more. I want to see this guy attack the glass more. And if Kuminga is anywhere around 7-8 rebounds a night, he's a $200 million a year player. At this age, with these offensive downhill skills that he has, he is a freight train when he's going to the rack. I wish he'd pass up a few more shots, but again, it feels like he's starting to hit those too. There's an awful lot to like about Kuminga, but
yes.
How does he best serve the Warriors? Because I do think, the whole, how much do you really want to continue to chase a championship for Steph at this point in time in his career? Well, Steph has given every single indicator that chasing a championship with me is a still really, really good idea. I'm still chasing them. You should be too. So how does Kuminga best serve the Warriors? As a player they use and develop and excel with, or as a player that they trade to bring in the missing piece, and Kuminga is interesting enough to maybe be that player? How does he best serve the Warriors this year?
Well, the Kuminga topic is obviously fascinating and interesting for a lot of reasons. You brought up the whether you brought up earlier whether or not he could be a potential disruption, whether or not he's going to care about the minutes. He got benched. Like last year when he complained through his agent, right? His agent's the one that's really like doing all this, and he's the proxy here. And but it's important to remember the timing of the complaint last year. Like Kuminga complained about his playing time a day after the team blew that huge, what was it, like a 20-point lead to the Nuggets that they had at the half.
Yeah.
Because Kuminga didn't play at all in the second half. And Kerr was stubbornly stuck with the veterans that a year earlier had the best net rating of any starting five. But last year, it wasn't the same. Wiggins clearly was going through something. He was in a decline. Kevon Looney is just not deserving of starter minutes at the five just because he can't defend other bigs. It is his one weakness, but it's a glaring weakness. Other bigs eat him up, man. They can back him up and just shoot over him at will, and there's not much you can do about that. And that's what
he's a great rebounder, but he's not a great at his position defender.
Absolutely. And now granted, he does make up for that with his perimeter defense, right? With the versatility, but when a traditional big can back him down and score at will, it's why he was out of the rotation entirely in the 2022 opening round against the Nuggets because he couldn't stop Nikola Jokic. Jokic was scoring at will against them. So point being, back last year, that lineup wasn't working anymore, but Kerr, just wouldn't let go and went with it again, and they blew that huge lead to the Nuggets. And then the very next day, Kuminga complained, and I think the reason why his complaint worked is because it opened up a line of communication between him and Kerr. And I think what came out of that, which we all read in the reports, was that, and Kerr said this publicly, which is that he has an open door policy, and the failure on Kerr's part was communicating that to Kuminga. And Kuminga realized that, and they're both very copacetic now. When you talk about the negotiations of this offseason that fell apart, they weren't that far apart, meaning Kuminga wanted $30 million a year. I'm sorry, Kuminga wanted $35 million a year. The Warriors did offer 30. So they weren't that far apart to begin with. And what I'm thinking with the Warriors strategy here is let's not give him what he wants. We're close enough where if he makes up for whatever deficiencies we see, then we'll give him the extra $5 million a year. That's not a massive gap in difference of negotiation. And so I think the Warriors are waiting to see, what can this kid do with the incentive of fighting for that extra $5 million? And what we're seeing right now is something I love, which is why I think this team is real. Kuminga comes off the bench. He cares about winning, I think, much more so than the individual accolades. And right now, you're seeing Kuminga coming off the bench as part of that second unit that includes Buddy Hield, that includes Pajemski. And again, we should probably spend a minute or two talking about him because he's really struggling. But then you got these other bench pieces like GP2, who should or should not be playing. That's a whole other discussion as well. But the point is, the bench is deep. Buddy Hield and him particularly are awesome as a duo. Those two are subtly taking the league by storm. That's a duo that I think should be talked about more as well. But the point is, Kuminga is coming off the bench, but he's finishing games in the same way that you're starting to see this team kind of develop an identity in the sense that their starting lineup seems to be set. Their closing five is starting to get set too. And that closing five includes Steph, Draymond, Wiggins. Kuminga has pretty much cemented his role as part of that closing five. And then who the fifth is, it could be Buddy, it could be Melton. I don't know if that part's been secured yet, but the fact that Kuminga is closing games,
right. What do you need? Do you need a bucket or do you need a stop? That's the difference.
And he's not making the Warriors regret it. He's closing games and they're winning sometimes because of it. He was huge in that Thunder game. His impact has been profound. He seems to be comfortable with this current role where he's getting his minutes. He got 27 last night. He's finishing games. I don't think, look, if this continues, any talk of a trade should probably be shut down because why disrupt this? Why ruin a great thing, right? So my whole point is to summarize. Sorry to talk so long. I think Kuminga is at a good place right now. I think we're just going to see an improvement since that 3-game start to the season that was not great. He started off, he looked like he was in his head. Maybe it was because of those negotiations. I don't know. But the point is, after those first 3 games, he's settled down. He's giving you 15 to 20 a night. Last night, I think, 5 or 6 boards. So he's not getting the 7 or 8 you asked for, but at least he's getting 5 or more. I think 5 to me is a good number where you can be satisfied with Kuminga's production. And he's shooting well outside now. He was 40% from 3 last night. So I'm loving what I'm seeing, man. What about you?
I like it. I really do. Just to me, Kuminga is the guy that could make maybe Andrew Wiggins expendable, but then Andrew Wiggins, who could fetch you more, Wiggins or Kuminga? Kuminga because he's younger, probably. But then again, you have a controlled price point on Wiggins where there is a whole world of expenditures attached to if you traded for Kuminga. So who would be the trade partner? What would be the piece? How would it all fit? Again, I'm not looking to pull anything apart. It's been a nice start, but just down the road thinking, I think you got to think of these things. I'll say this about Wiggins. He doesn't rebound like he should either, but boy, he is playing better defense than he's played since the Celtics series. I mean, in the NBA Finals, he has really been locked in. The whole team has been locked in defensively. That clearly was the Steve Kerr mandate. And I don't know if this is Jerry Stackhouse showing up as the new defensive coordinator.
Huge part of it. Huge part of it. Yes.
I think he is. I think he is, Cy. And
he is. And well, because Damon, I broke the story on Golden Days a couple weeks ago that Draymond Green in the third or fourth game of the season was benched. I don't know if you remember that. Like, he was benched at the final 8 minutes of a game that I think they eventually lost. And we don't see that ever. Like the only time I remember Draymond Green getting benched was the 2022 NBA Finals. And I think it was one of the games against the Celtics. And it was eye-opening, but it was needed. He wasn't playing his best. And that's the only memory I have of Draymond Green being benched until this season. And that was almost entirely a Jerry Stackhouse decision. He is a badass. He is getting in every player's ear, Draymond included. Draymond is respecting it. He likes that level of coaching. Dude, he has his impact and Terry's thoughts. I think on the offensive side, you're seeing some subtle adjustments to simplify things. And that's like the pick and roll is a lot more predominant. Draymond Green's usage rate is back up to what we were seeing a few years ago when he was playing the point guard role. Well, we've kind of missed that the last 2 years.
Offensively aggressive Draymond.
Yes.
Don't get it enough. And I don't mean aggressive with the pass, aggressive with the right play. Go to the fucking rack, man.
Yes.
Go. Just go.
And he's doing it.
And by the way, let me just say, I don't like the result of Chet Holmgren's serious injury. Like, I mean, he's hurt his hip bad. He's going to miss a couple months.
Yeah. He's going to be out for the year, probably, realistically. I mean, 8 to 10 weeks before they just figure out what they're dealing with. I think he's done for the year, but anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, the move that ended up being the move that hurt Holmgren was the single most aggressive move to the rack I have seen from Andrew Wiggins, with a defender standing between. Because Wiggins will go hard to the hole on a fast break and there's nobody there and he shows you what an athlete he is. And you're like, fuck, do that all the time. For him to have just run straight up Chet Holmgren's chest to go to the rack, to me, is just one of those like, ooh, haven't seen that on Andrew Wiggins in a while. That is a good sign for, again, this team just being bought in, locked in. It's looking pretty damn good so far.
And I'm glad you brought that up, dude, because I've been saying that as well. The Wiggins we're seeing this year, even though the rebounding numbers, even in the 2022 season, you didn't see it statistically really stick out until the postseason when he suddenly started rebounding, grabbing 8-9 boards a game. And he wasn't doing that during the regular season, but we were seeing that tenacity that we're seeing now. I brought up that point as well. I'm so glad you did too, that the Chet Holmgren injury, what stuck out to me, I mean, besides the horrific nature of it, I mean, a broken hip, I don't wish that on anybody. I never wish injury on anybody ever. I just don't think I think you're a scumbag if you're wishing people to get hurt.
Yeah, who is that person?
They're out there. But my point is, just to echo your sentiments, because I've been saying that as well. What stuck out to me on that play was Wiggins went up there with force, dude. And he's looking like the guy who was scaring people when he'd attack the rim, who was in the inside getting second and third opportunities for putbacks. Like, even though last night, for example, like you said, his rebounding numbers weren't there. He had 3 rebounds total, 8 points, 4 assists. He was 0 for 3 from deep. But even though Luka Doncic ate his lunch, I mean, Doncic had 31 points in this game. He got those 31 points in 41 minutes, and he was 2 of 10 from 3, and a lot of that was Andrew Wiggins, man. And I'm sure you remember as well as I do how Wiggins played Doncic in the Western Conference Finals back in 2022. That was also very reminiscent. Yeah, the Wiggins of old is back in a lot of ways, and that's why I don't want to trade anything. Like, I'm looking at this team right now, and I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, they could probably use an upgrade at the center position, but Kerr doesn't use that position anyway, so what would be the point? Like,
right.
at this point, I kind of just want to sit back. But Kuminga, in terms of a trade piece, and this could be a good discussion. It's been discussed, but I don't think it's tired. Like some people would be willing to trade him for Jimmy Butler. I'm not there. Like I don't think you trade Kuminga for Butler. If it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, yeah.
And now we can talk. Now we can talk for sure. Brandon Podziemski at the end of this year will be what to the Golden State Warriors? Because I'm trying to figure it out. There's a lot I like, and when his shot isn't falling, give me Melton, give me GP2, get him off the court when his shot's not falling.
Dude, or give me Moses Moody, because Moody to me is deserving of more than 11 minutes 55 seconds, which is what he got last night. Yeah, the Podziemski thing. Here's the alarming thing about Podziemski, and all you can hope for is that it's whatever the issue is going on with him has to do with the mask, has to do with the fact that he missed a game and a half because of dizziness, and we never got a really detailed explanation as to what went behind that. And part of me wonders if it's a complication from maybe he got a concussion from the nose breaking. I don't know, man. There's some mystery clouding Podziemski and his struggles right now and his health issues, but he has admitted that he hates the mask. He's used that word. And what concerns me with Podziemski that I'm seeing on the court is not so much the shooting, which you're right. The shot needs to at some point start falling, and he needs to drastically improve his 3-point shooting percentage, which is abysmal. I mean, I want to look it up right now, but off the top of my head, I think it's below 20% on the year so far, and that's just unacceptable. That's unacceptable. But the part of his game that concerns me right now is the net rating aspect, because even when he would have games where he was not contributing, you'd still look at the box score and look at his net rating and go, wow, he was a plus 15. Like, wow, he led the Warriors in
right
last year. Like, he's a winner. But that is the part of at least the stat sheet that has also been negatively affected, where last night he was a minus 19. I think the previous game it was something similar to that. That part of it, if he's not playing winning basketball out there, if he's hurting you and not helping you, you got to take him out. I mean, then you got to bench him and wait until he's better, or figure out whatever issues are going on, because a minus 19, that's not justifiable for minutes.
Look, and he's an all courts guy. You know, he's good for half a block, almost a steal a night. He is a decent rebounder. He can see the court. He can set up plays, but he's shooting 21.6% from downtown.
Oh, that's not good.
That is just not good, especially when you got a bench full of shooters.
Yes.
You know, the greatest shooter of all time, Buddy Hield, wherever he ranks in that conversation right now.
Up there. Yeah.
There are very few guys, and this was the beauty of Klay Thompson. There are very few guys who can stand on a court with Curry at any point in time and be like, well, for tonight anyways, I'm the best shooter on the planet, because it's always Steph Curry.
I will say this, man. No, you're right. It is Steph Curry, but I will say this. It's making there's definitely a second look being taken place in terms of the Lowry Markkanen trade, any other trades out there. If Brandon Podziemski was holding up the Warriors getting Lowry Markkanen, boy oh boy, man, are you having some regrets about that? But it's early. It's early. I don't want. I'm sorry for even bringing that up, but
this is why people watch when we start talking about the Warriors. Cyrus, this was a hell of a show. I think we got a hell of an idea on Wednesdays, because look, everyone who's wanting their football fix, Kruger and I on Wednesdays bring you a wake up from 9 to about 11:30, and then, or 10:30, I should say. And then Cyrus and I are going to come on and co-stream Warriors Wednesdays here on the Plus and on Golden Days as well. And let's just kind of take a little look ahead at the fact that Friday, you got the Memphis Grizzlies and John Morant coming to town. Yeah. And then it'll be the first game at the Intuit Dome down on Monday next week, taking on the LA Clippers. And then on Wednesday, on Warriors Wednesday, start your day with yours truly and Cyrus, and end your night with Warriors Hawks at Chase Center. By the way, after that, just to wrap up next week, they're at New Orleans and then at San Antonio. And all I can tell you is that the news this morning breaking about Greg Popovich is, a little bit more serious than some had maybe thought. Greg Popovich had a mild stroke, which is someone who's had a mild stroke And I think my mild stroke was a lot more severe than Greg Popovich, because I was in the hospital for 22 days working with physical and occupational therapists. They're saying that Greg is going to make a full recovery and get full returns. I certainly hope so. But this is the oldest head coach in NBA history who has won more games than anyone in NBA history. I don't know if we're going to get too many more seasons of Greg Popovich beyond this season. I just wish him a speedy recovery. Again, things matter when they're personal. Stroke issues are kind of personal to me.
Yeah. Oh, and me too. I mean, my mom had a major stroke. My grandfather died of a major stroke. So it's an issue for me too, man. I'm with you, and let's hope he's okay. And
indeed,
how old is he, by the way, right now? I mean, you're right. He's
75, man.
He's 75. Okay, I thought he was actually older than that. Okay, so yeah, that's not young, man. That's not young. No. But yeah, let's hope he's okay.
They took a look at me having my stroke. They saw how overweight I was, and they're like, well, at least you're young.
That's still, Damon, the fact that you went through that is still one of the most shocking things I've ever seen, and it's crazy, man. Like we're only a few years apart, I think, in age, and you should not be. Was it a weight issue? Is that what it was? It was just
no. It was cholesterol. I mean, again, cholesterol is kind of a weight issue too. I've always been about 30 pounds overweight my entire life. I've always had high blood pressure, which I've always said, hey, it's normal for me. High blood pressure is normal for me. And a doctor once said, hey, that might be normal for you, but it's not normal for a human, which you also are. So, okay.
Like you're not an ape. You're not an elephant. You're a human.
Right.
Let's get.
Yeah. And you're having an honest conversation with a doctor when they're like, all right, so, what kind of partying do you do? What kind of fun that you have? And the biggest piece of advice I walked away from the stroke with was stop eating fast food, don't chew any more tobacco, and put down the 6-foot graphics bong. Like, you don't need a bong anymore. No more bong rips. You should just be back to a joint or a bowl. Calm down there.
What's the bad thing about the bong? I mean, is it the
smoking your lungs? Extra? Smoke in your lungs is not good for your circulatory system, and a stroke is your circulatory system failing you. So,
oh, that sucks. Well, yeah, and let's hope Popovich is okay. I mean, that is serious, man. It is very serious business. I'm glad you came out of it 100%, because some people have strokes and they have like permanent scars from that, like with
I got lucky, man. I got lucky.
So I'm happy you're 100%. I remember when that happened, man. We were worried about you, dude. That was crazy news. And let's hope Popovich is okay. And on a more positive note, thanks again to the audience as always. Like just to follow up on that international tip, like we had people coming to us in the chat from India after you first brought that up. I think we talked about New Zealand. We saw there was someone. Where it was way back up from earlier, but the point is, it's just crazy to me that there's people all over the world. Poland, you mentioned earlier. I think we had in Ireland. We had in Scotland. I don't know. There's a lot of places, man. It was way earlier. So thank you to everyone for joining us. And again, I'm really excited, Damon, that you and I every Wednesday are going to be hosting Warriors Wednesdays.
And oh, by the way, coming on in, we break for super chats. Coast to Coast says, I'm sorry, Larry.
$20.
Sorry, Larry. TJD, too slow, no hops, easily bullied. Okay, first of all, he's got hops. What are you talking about? If Looney can get himself in shape, I don't think he could. He's also too limited to move, two-handed dunk. These are just the facts. I'm just telling you right now, whatever player you're looking at and evaluating is not good enough in TJD right now. Give him 10 more games, and he'll be better.
I agree, man. I'm totally with you. TJD needs to get more. So what is Coast to Coast trying to say here? Because if you're donating $19.99, I want to give you your money's worth. What are they trying to argue here? Like, what was
I don't know. I think he called us Larry, first of all. So,
yeah, that is Larry. Weird too. Yeah, who's Larry? There is no Larry here today.
Anyways, we do thank you very much, Coast to Coast. And I'm just telling you right now, the day you decide to start giving up or less is more with TJD, you're on the wrong path, man. That guy is a basketball player. Let him play basketball. Here's what he's not. He's not a shooter. You don't need another shooter.
Well, and neither is Looney. I mean, I think with Coast to Coast. Oh, see, now Coast to Coast said I meant Bruce. He apologized. But I think what he's advocating for is that Kevon Looney deserves minutes over Trace Jackson Davis, and I don't get that. I mean, look, Looney can't shoot either. Looney has a mid-range shot. I'll give him that. but he can't drain threes, and neither can Trayce Jackson-Davis. And again, this is not. I don't like criticizing Looney. I mean, what he's done for this team, his contributions, who he is as a person, he's an awesome individual. But this is strictly a basketball conversation, and Trayce Jackson-Davis just produces better results. It's just he gives you more defensively. He gives you easier buckets offensively. He led this team last year as a rookie in field goal percentage, which is important. That is what bigs are supposed to do. I don't see any flaws in his game as a big. Like, bigs aren't supposed to be draining threes. So coast to coast, we'll have to agree to disagree.
He's not a prototypical big, but he's exactly the kind of big that the Warriors need.
Yes, 1,000%. By the way, you froze. Is that me or is that you? I can't tell.
No, that's me. I did freeze. I froze with like a really pissed off look on my face. I looked so grumpy. I have no idea why I froze. Hey, guess what? When it's time to freeze, it's time to go. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you. I swear to God,
I love you, man. I love that it froze with that look, dude. You're just angry. I love it. We're fired up. Woo!
Do I fired up, or do I look like I'm sitting on the toilet? I don't even know. That's about it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. It was great to have you here, and please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, they're gone.